A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey, and as always, it's a brand new day, brand new week, and we have a lot for you today on the program. We're going to take it in phases. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Jeff. Well, your morning starts here wherever you're in your office, or in traffic, or just waking up. Your morning starts here, and we've got you covered. I'm Kelly Egiga. So much to unpack from the world of sports to politics. Health, a lot played out over the weekend, Jeff.
Absolutely. And of course, politics is holding sway as much as possible. We're going to dive deep into issues.
It's the season.
Issues around politics because they have up till May the 30th to make final decision. But what seems to be grabbing the headlines is what's happening with the ruling party. And I've always told the ruling party, don't be too overconfident when it comes to politics. We've been around for a while, and we know how this thing happens and plays out. There are certain things that are happening that is not unique to anyone. For instance, the number of governors, this is the record, 31. We've had 28 in 2000, I think 7. Right now, we don't have perhaps any PDP governors or any PDP governor. Maybe Seyi Makinde, who is combining PDP and APM because he's declared his intention. So whether the APC has hit a crescendo in the number of governors they can have remains to be seen. But with politics, you don't make conclusive statements when it comes to how the game can play out. Somebody could be down today, the next hour the person is up. So we are watching how it happens, and you can see from history that sometimes it's not about the strength of the opposition that dissipates or implodes or literally destroy a ruling party. It's the inability of the ruling party to put their acts together. For instance, right now, there is a battle between the Aborigines as well as the original settlers of the APC. The original people, who formed the merger to form the APC, and those who defected to come in. And some of the people who defected have also been shown that, excuse me, there was in a queue here before you came, so you may have to wait. But there's a lot more beyond politics. We'll dig deep into that later on the program. But Kelly, what are you tracking?
Yes, I mean, just staying with the APC primaries, because there's been a lot of disputes, controversies, some surprises and shocks, a lot of shocks and surprises. But one man has been trending over the weekend. Is the leader, one of the leaders of the City Boys movement, Cubana Chief Priest. He's been trending all over social media, and that's because, he lost out on the primaries, there were reports yesterday of his reaction where he was alleging that, he was disappointed. He had given monies to some of the leaders in his area, his village, and he was surprised. I think reports say he got just 14 votes, and the comments on social media has just really been interesting. Some say, look, perhaps it's just his family members who had to vote for him out of almost 3,000 votes, But, I mean, a lot of surprises, a lot of shocks. Just as my colleague has said, Jeff, it looks like the APC may be its own problems, or the origin of its own problems, because this thing played out as well with the PDP some years ago, where, issues, grievances and all of that, and some persons left. I remember when there was now a creation of the new PDP. So I'm sure that when all of the factions or all of the oppositions are unable to even stop the APC, perhaps the APC itself or some aggrieved members may cause the downfall of the APC. It's interesting how this season is going to play out the coming weeks and months as we count down to the elections in 2027. But, Jeff?
For me, I don't want the downfall of any political party. The truth, that's the truth. That's because it's important.
But it played out with the PDP.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm sad to see that the PDP is going down the way it has gone down. People in the party may argue for whatever they want, but we know what we're seeing. At least we can see now that they barely have a governor. This is a party that ran Nigeria for 16 years.
16 years.
So we have to get to a point where we have unshakable, immovable, I don't know what more word to use, about maybe at least 3. We have the potential for 3 to 4 strong political parties, and we can hold those parties for the next 50 years. That is what I am trying to look at. It's not because I know that primarily when it comes to politicians, is their interest, self-preservation, It's about what they are about, Self-preservation is the first thing. And there's no crime in being selfish, but let your selfishness be able to serve the interests of the people. So just very disturbing to see a party that once ran Nigeria. In fact, they boasted, I think Chief Ebola was the one, according to what I reported, that said PDP will rule Nigeria for 60 years. So what we are now discovering is that, let's look at what will happen with the APC, and then we can now do a thesis on maybe the ability or inability of big parties to be able to manage big houses. So if you go to the UK, if you go to South Africa, you go to Ghana, you go to the United Kingdom, these are the references I always like to use because they are a lot more relatable. You see that even within the parties, they may have a problem, but they don't have factions. I think this thing about factions should just stop. Do you understand? They may have a problem. You know, the Democrats, they have their issues. The Republicans have their issues. Labour is having a big issue. Reform UK has taken almost 300 seats. Yeah. That's Rafael, what's the guy's name? Farage here. I forgot it. I used to mix his name. And then Robert Jenrick also joined from Conservative Party. If you go to neighboring Ghana, you know, NDP and NPP. If you go to South Africa, you have the ANC. Now you have the DA and then the MK that's formed by Jacob Zuma. The EFF is the fourth party. So you see what happens is when there are problems within those parties, you don't see them creating new factions. They just leave to maybe another party. I think there's some guy in EFF that has gone to form his own political party. So let them find a way to be stable so that the day Party A is not doing well, Nigeria kicks them out. Party B is always in the corner to bring another party, and then so that nobody sits pretty and feel, oh, it's sorted. No matter what happens, no matter how I misrule this country, I'm still going to win an election. It's not going to work. So that's why I say I don't pray for the downfall of all. And then there's something going on, this hegemony, this party ownership has to stop in Nigeria. This idea, they have all these. I think the first time I heard about national leader was with Bola Tinubu, the president now. President Buhari was the president, but they were referring to him as national leader.
And they had a national party chairman.
They have a national chairman. In fact, national leader is supposed to be like the highest elected office, which was the president. But President Buhari was still the president. They were calling President Bola Tinubu then. They were calling him national leader. Now he's on week has joined the league of national leader. Seriake Dixon.
Yeah.
You can't build institutions like that. It's not going to work. It's not going to last.
But some will argue that the more the merrier, the more parties we have in the system, the more people have that freedom to associate and all of that. So that's the argument for some people. My concern is that in all of these, you know, Nigerians need to find, you know, where they can express themselves. They need to find a platform. They need to find a platform, you know, where they can express themselves, where they can, you know, confidently be a part of. I'm not sure how many young persons are members of political parties. Maybe in very recent times, some persons, you know, choose to go for the last elections, the Labour Party and all of that. But in terms of being a member of a party because of the ideas or ideologies of that party.
Forget that one, there's no ideology anyway.
No, but I can't say that. I mean, they claim they do have.
I'm telling you for a fact that no political party have a solid ideology that is different. Should I use the word challenge them? No? So they have some document that looks like it. So for instance, sorry for cutting in, the PDP is more like a conservative party. Perception. The APC is more like a liberal, you know, progressive party. But I always use the analogy between Muhammad Buhari, late Muhammad Buhari, and the president, Bola Tinubu. Their economic ideologies are left and right. Buhari is more right-leaning, welfarist. Tinubu is neoliberal, classic capitalist. And they are in the same political party. So I think when it comes to ideology, it's individuals first. Before we are hoping
at the party level.
Forget about. I just gave you an example. I'm not giving you something strange anyway. I just give you an example. No, go ahead, please.
So I mean, it just paints the picture that, you know what? Let's just come together, like people would say, you know, when the APC had those alliances in 2014, 2015. You know what? The ideology in quotes was, you know what? Let's kick PDP out. Let's take PDP let's take PDP out of the way. And so that's why some persons are also a bit concerned with the opposition. I mean, coming together now, there's, for instance, in NDC, we have Peter B and Kwankwaso. You know, we have the ADC as well, where Amechi and Atiku as well, with their jostling for the tickets as well. So what's the ideology? What's the central theme? What exactly are you looking at bringing a change? It's amazing because historically, when you if you refer to the likes of the Nnamdi Azikiwe's in those times, it looks like Nigeria perhaps the parties had that sort of ideology where you join. I'm not sure now if it's the is it the NCNC, one of those old parties.
That's Nnamdi Azikiwe's party.
Yeah. You can't just join because you would join with the idea that, look, this is what we want to bring to this country. I'm not sure exactly when we had that shift or whether there's that missing link where we stopped having parties with ideologies and all of that. But I think it tells why we are where we are today as a nation, where people just come together because of their personal and selfish interests. But Jeff, a lot has been happening, sports, health-wise. I'm not sure how we're going to battle this. There's hantavirus, there's Ebola outbreak, just this morning as well. There's also concerns here in Lagos about Lassa fever, and the Lagos State government is also warning and saying, you know what, you have to be careful with hygiene, with rodents, and all of that. So much for Nigerians to battle with at this time. The outbreak in DR Congo, the
Ebola outbreak.
The Ebola outbreak, and then, of course, Lassa fever here in Lagos, and then, you know, so there's a lot for us to unpack on the show today.
We'll take a look at all of it as much as we can, because this is what really governance is all about. So I want to segue back to what you talked about, ideology. We're hoping, because that's what we always challenge them with, what do you stand for? We should have political parties that insist that they will pay subsidy. We should. If they do, they should also explain to us that the fiscal pressure that will come from paying subsidy, how do they want to manage it? Is not just a fancy...
Just remind you, what I said is going to...
yeah, that's true. You know, sometimes when we talk about parties, we don't remember the quote-unquote smaller parties.
Yeah. On the show last week,
he said he's going to bring back... So I don't know whether that's this party's position. It's a different matter altogether. And then when it comes to the health issues, you know, we can go back and forth over this issue. Nigeria demonstrated some level of resilience with the Ebola, for instance.
In 2014.
I think that was under Jonathan.
Yes.
And then the COVID was global. And then Lassa has been like seasonal. Just for everybody to be cautious as much as possible. But before we jump to the papers, we should remember that something important happened. Not dramatically significant, but something quite meaningful. S&P credit rating, the credit agency that, you know, Moody's and all of that. S&P upgraded us from B- to B. For those who are not quite familiar with how that works, is the way you are rated, the credit rate, sovereign credit rating, gives an impression of how you're managing the health of your economy. I don't want to go to the technical part, but it gives an idea of how you're managing the economy, whether you're fragile, whether you're stable, but you're still fiscally exposed. But it also shows that the country, in terms of macroeconomics, is doing something right, not significant, but meaningful, because we still have the double B, we have the triple B, we have the A, double A, triple A. We say, in fact, we are within what they call the junk grade zone, the speculative zone. So we're still a risky thing to borrow us money. But I also feel that these credit agencies are not fair to African countries, because where we're rating is affects how much interest is being charged on some of the borrowings you do. And African leaders have been making statements. We also need an African credit agency when it comes. But maybe we'll have a time to discuss the break down the detail, because we're just slightly above what you call the very dangerous part, the triple C down to D. So there's B minus B, and then B plus, and then double B, and we go all the way to the top. But we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what the papers are leading with. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. Our national dailies gets our attention next. And the only man I hear say Thank God it's a Monday. Joins us live on the program. I don't know how he does it, but I can confirm to you guys that he's an early morning person. He's an early bird. I don't know how you do it, Mr. Dayo Kintobi joins us live on the program. For every time I get to the studios when I'm on this show, I meet you in the premises of Channels TV. So I don't know, do you sleep at all?
Absolutely. It's just that Sunday into Monday morning is always reduced sleep because we are so anticipating Monday morning that we don't really get to even want to sleep at all because the excitement of Monday is coming. So thank God it's Monday, Nigeria.
I understand that. I mean, I don't know how the morning guys that do it, but it's always, I mean, waking up in the morning and just reduced sleep is what that phrase, I think I'll go with that phrase, reduced sleep. Because you have to keep tracking events. In case there's a breaking story or developing story and all of that. Okay, let's get things started this morning as we pay attention to the national dailies. And we begin with the Abuja Inquirer. It says that APC heavyweights battle for lone FCT Senate slots. APC heavyweights battle for lone FCT Senate slots. Aduda and Abdullahi in crunch race. Wike towers over contest controversy trails reps primaries. I mean, all eyes have been on these primaries over the weekend. It's been interesting indeed. I think for Abbas, Tajin Abbas, Obasa, and a few others, the coast is clear. They've picked the tickets, you know. Hurdle 1 has been crossed. But for others, you know, I think today in Akwa Ibom as well at Pabio, we'll get to know what's going to play out there and all of that. But it's the fact that already, Mr. Kintobi, there are a lot of concerns, there are a lot of disputes, there are a lot of grievances, a lot of controversies and all of that has, you know, has surrounded this process. Are you worried for the APC?
Well, yes, without a doubt, there's got to be some concern because even in the run-up to the primaries, we could already see that it was going to be contentious. From that idea of consensus versus imposition. As you know, the 2026 Electoral Act gave only 2 ways of conducting primaries, either through consensus or through direct primaries. And it gave specific instructions on how the consensus will play out. But the way it's been happening in the APC has been a bit contrary to what the Electoral Act dictates and has left a lot of aspirants with a bitter taste in their mouths because the powers that be within the APC have been the ones who have been selecting who the ultimate ticket holder will be without the acquiescence of the other aspirants. So you see a lot of people refusing to step down, refusing to endorse the candidate that is anointed by the party and insist on going for a bruising direct primary. So which more or less puts them at loggerheads with the party structure in terms of what the party wants. So going into the election, there was already strife. There was already tension going into the primaries. And we saw that play out in different places across the country. Some were uncontested, like Obasa, for example. There were some who had just an easy run. But by and large, if you looked in different places across the country, there were situations where there were unexpected upsets. You mentioned in the beginning of the show the one about Obi Kubana. And
Kubana Chief Priest.
Kubana Chief Priest, what happened with that one, which was a surprise. Because first of all, remember his role in City Boys. So
but somebody joked that the Village Boys did the first one on the City Boys.
So the way it has gone is not surprising because we could see this internecine feud pulling the party apart in the run-up to the elections based on internal mechanisms of preferred candidates. The truth of the matter is that APC from the beginning has never shown signs of really being internally democratic, irrespective of, you know, the propaganda. They've always leaned in the direction of a strong man, a party favorite, all of the rest of you fall in line, and anybody who runs counter to that usually pays a price. And that's why I'm a bit surprised that Desmond I'm actually quite happy that he's standing up to the power structure. I like that. I believe that.
I wonder how it's going to end.
Well, it's not going to end well for him. That's the truth. That's the truth. It's not going to end well for him. But I like the fact that he's standing up to the party and saying, no, we have to go through a democratic process. You shouldn't have to impose somebody. I, as an aspirant, have a right to run. Anybody has a right to run as long as they qualify, and you shouldn't try to squeeze or elbow somebody out unless he's willing. Perhaps you sat down and negotiated. He said nobody's ever talked to him about him. And remember, he's the incumbent, so he has first right of refusal, even though on another side, I think he's done 3 terms, which is 12 years. So I think enough is enough. Let him go. Then also the way he came in, considering the history of politics in Nigeria.
The exact same process.
The way he came in is the way they're trying to move him out. So he should just accept it and say, okay, my time is over and he should go. But I also like the fact that he's fighting. If more people stood up to the party structure and said, no, we're not accepting this, let's go through a democratic process, then it would reduce this tyrannical tendency that I begin to see within the ruling party, whereby they want to impose their candidates to the detriment of other aspirants who should be given a fair chance to test their popularity. I don't know why anyone would be scared of a free and fair direct primary to test your popularity, see how many people line up behind you, especially the incumbents who can run on their record. I listened to that video of Elliot yesterday where he was talking about the things he did in the last 12 years for his constituents. And, you know, on the one hand, as he was reeling out his interventions, and so then his campaign DG, the Director General of his campaign, was saying, I'm defecting to the other aspirant who is contesting
the female.
Yeah, the female who's contesting for a seat.
Nigerian politics is very brutal.
Oh, absolutely.
When it favors you, it's all good.
Yes.
And when it doesn't favor you,
when you fall out
great.
of favor,
so,
yes.
You have to, when you get into the space, so I was just smiling when you guys were talking because some people have been looking for a certain seat since 2015. You can't just show up and unseat them. It doesn't work like that.
No.
When it comes, so when you were talking about Cubana chief priest, I was just smiling. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
And then some of the process that brings certain people in. If you don't have the machinery to fight the hegemony, the system, the establishment that brought you in, don't even start the fight.
Absolutely.
Just like what happened in River State in the first place. You may argue, oh, no one man should control, but how were these people brought? Just like Desmond earlier you talked about. So we're looking at places like River State now. In fact, River State was even easier for Nyesom Wike because what they did was to make sure that the people that would give them trouble,
they had already screened them
were
out.
Loyal. They screened them out, so they're still and all of that.
And in line with what you're saying about people who've been waiting for seats all this time, and you can't just elbow them out. It's also the same way with even the parties that opposition members are moving into. The PRP is the latest one that the existing power structure is saying, Akim Baba Ahmed and all these people are new. Where are you coming from? We've been here all this time. So even,
meanwhile, they've been recognized by INEC on their portal.
Absolutely. Even the NDC too has leadership challenge.
Maybe I'll do an explainer what I call political aborigines and settlers. That's what's going on now.
Even the NDP has people who are challenging Dixon's leadership.
In that same vein, let's go to the Nigerian Tribune. There are states where, you know, today is the Senate primary.
Yes.
So we're looking at Ogun State, we're looking at things like Kwara.
Yes.
Akwa
in some parts. And then Delta. Ogun East, Kwara Central, Imo West remain contentious. Senators plot return tickets. Daniel Campaign Organization directs supporters to boycott Ogun East primary. Controversies hit reps primaries as more. So I decided to, because this is still the same thing we're talking about, but I wanted you to speak to what you expect to happen today. For instance, in Delta Central, we have the Dafinon is squaring up with Omar Agege, and then Ned Nwoko in Delta North with Okowa, and then Benga Daniel versus Dakwa Abiodun in Ogun East, and the list is on.
On and on. Well, there's some breaking news in the Ogun East. From what I heard this morning, that Benga Daniel has officially pulled out, apart from telling his supporters to boycott, that he himself has taken a stand that he's not going to participate because there's a threat of violence, intimidation, and all these negative tendencies that would affect his people. And he doesn't want any of his supporters that not one single life is worth any office in the country, and as a result, he's stepping back. I guess that's still yet to be confirmed, but I heard that on my way to the studio this morning. But it goes to show generally that even in the Senate, all the things that played out in the House of Reps over the weekend are going to replicate themselves in the Senate. The APC, as I've said, has some anti-democratic inclination. So you see a person like an Okowa, you see the party favorites, the ones that are backed and preferred by the party structure. You will see them prevailing. First of all, the party has deep pockets. The party will promise the delegates who are voting all kinds of things in situations where they can't get a consensus, because these ones we've talked about now, Delta, both in Delta, the aspirants didn't step down, so they're going for direct primaries. And so you will see contention to where even if the upstart is popular within the electorate, but is not the preferred candidate of the party, there will be shenanigans, there will be coercion, there will be inducements to where the person that the party favors will prevail eventually. So I see an Okowa being the one, to prevail there. Abiodun has already prevailed, even if Daniel was going to contest against him, because you could already see the right
power of the incumbency.
Yeah, you could see not even so much the power of the. When they had a meeting to anoint the candidate of Ogun East, they locked Benga Daniel out. He couldn't attend the meeting. He wasn't allowed into the meeting. So that already tells you the way it was going to go. So to answer you, Jeff, I'm expecting more of the same today.
So when things happen like this, what usually plays out is that the ruling party will lose some states, because some of these guys who are angry, they won't give up. Since you don't want to carry them along. That's what happened with the PDP. Kelly.
So I was just going to ask, perhaps, in line with what Jeff is saying, is this a window for the opposition party generally, because some people are going to defect? Are they sitting down
they can't contest again anyway.
No, you can't defect at this time.
No, you can defect.
You can't contest. You can't contest because
the Electoral Act has barred you already.
Absolutely, the membership register has been submitted. So even if you defect now, you can't contest. Well, for me, the opposition is marginalized in a way that strengthens the incumbent, and unless the opposition can find a way to align into a formidable fighting force, yes, they'll take some votes away from the incumbent, but I'm not sure they can mount a strong enough challenge.
Let's go ahead to the New Telegraph now and see what we can take there. We've done politics already. Let's see. Let's the Ebola outbreak. Ebola, WHO declares global emergency as FG moves to heighten surveillance. There are other political stories there, but let's touch on health for just a moment. This outbreak, I'm just wondering how concerned should we be? We've been back and forth. I understand this is another virus entirely, or variant entirely. We have a health expert who's going to talk to us in just a moment. But here we are again, another emergency for us as a continent. We saw the resilience in 2014 when that health worker, I can't remember her name now, who stopped Patrick Sawyer, with the pressure and all of that from his country.
Stella Adadevil.
Stella Adadevil, yes. So it's like we're back again to square one, because it looks like it looks like we're not even prepared to handle these outbreaks. That's what it looks. And I'm asking this question because, for instance, when you describe the Nigerian borders, one word comes to mind or paints a picture: porous. Porous. When you travel by air, you hear, "Okay, welcome, anything for the boys." You see, they greet you specially, ready to compromise the process and all of that. So I'm a bit concerned that it looks like this thing can just find its way into Nigeria.
Well, part of the problem is that we tend to react after the problem has started. Like I heard the Senate President on Friday begin to talk about, we have to intensify the efforts towards state police because we just suddenly had 3 incidents over the weekend. They were not talking about it before, about intensifying efforts before. But suddenly, because 3 major terrorism, kidnapping incidents occurred between Friday and Saturday, they're now saying, we have to intensify efforts. That's the way we've always done things, is that it's after the fact. You would think that we learned enough from COVID, and we actually mounted quite a a formidable response against COVID, because it could have been a lot worse. The results of the effects of COVID were much more devastating in other countries than here in Nigeria compared to our population, relative to our population. So I would say we did quite a decent job in spite of the ravages of COVID, and we should have learned from that to have an emergency response system for this type of thing, beginning from the airport. Because you see, things like hantavirus, Ebola virus, Lassa fever. I mean, we're talking about 3 major different viruses at this point in time, ravaging different parts of the world, particularly Africa. And you ask yourself, what is our disaster response preparedness? What is it? You know, I heard the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, who acquitted himself quite admirably during the COVID outbreak. I listened to him yesterday talking about Lagos's preparedness, and I would say that is probably quite adequate, but we don't know about the rest of the country. And even if you have Lagos being fortified against any pandemic penetration, how about the rest of the country? Lagos is not the only state in the country. And what is the level of preparedness at the federal level? Because generally these things are imported into the country. You talked about porous borders. When we talk about porous borders, what usually comes to mind is the notion of insecurity, insurgents coming across the border, criminals coming across the border, smuggled goods coming across the border. You never really think about things like a pandemic coming through a porous border. But the truth is, it comes from somewhere. It doesn't originate within. It's carried inside. And when you get to the airport, you are coming in, they actually have health inspection centers within the airport. But like you say, if the focus is, welcome, sir, or anything for your boys, sir, what did you bring for us, sir? How was your trip, sir? If that's the focus, then many things can slip through, you know. Sometimes it's just in even fried meat or, you know, food items that viruses are hiding and that shouldn't be allowed into the country, and they pass through.
You know, I was just thinking, I said, our president and his crew just came back from East Africa. And just
they should be properly checked.
I'm not saying this is everything happens to our president, please. I'm just saying, where is that? I'm trying to look at the map now. Where is Kenya now? Kenya is somewhere around. Okay, it's likely not
Kenya, Rwanda.
Yeah, so it's not. He went to Rwanda. He went to Kenya, so they are not too far away from each other. Especially Rwanda. Rwanda shares border with DRC, right? Yeah. So.
And he went with a large delegation, by the way.
So that's why we need to check a lot. Because, for instance, Lagos and Abuja, because they are major gateway states or cities, we need to, everything that has to be done early. So, thank you so much, Mr. Akintobi.
My pleasure.
For always bringing your expertise
My pleasure,
to the front line of the pages.
All-male affair today.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all-male affair, yeah.
I mean, on Saturday was International Boys' Day. It was very silent, but it's fine.
Problem. But, you know, at the weekend, we did tell you that the APC held its primaries for House of Representatives, and they'll be holding the Senate primaries today. But let's tell you something that played out in Surulere, where actor, politician Desmond Elliott had this remark to make about what he's going through, and then we'll come back with our correspondent from Rivers to give us up to speed, bring us up to speed.
The president of this great country, Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and of course the party leadership for allowing direct primaries to hold across the country. We say thank you so much, because this is meant to test the popularity of all the aspirants across board. But I want to bring to your notice that intimidation, coercion, arm twisting, and forcing people to follow their own candidate is what is existing today in Surulere. Telling them that they will not be beneficiaries of some empowerment that is coming some other time. Please, this is not done, should not be done. we are all members of the same party. We've been intimidated so much so that a lot of people from the local government are being fired because they follow me. That should not be allowed. It is bad enough that the LGA at the local government already took a side months ago. The local government already took a side to support a particular aspirant. I didn't say anything, but they were shocked to have seen the quantum number of people and supporters that we've had and have followed us because they believe in justice and they believe in fair play.
Talking about fighting for your political life. We wish him good luck. Let's bring in our correspondent from Port Harcourt, Charles Operum. Charles, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm sure you're smiling. You can see Desmond Elliott fighting the battle of his life. Well, he's been somehow been a beneficiary of the system. Now, like the system, you know, arguably has perhaps looked the other way because, you know, according to him and according to Femi Gbajabiamila, it looks like a Femi Gbajabiamila's quote-unquote boy. But let's forget Lagos. We'll deal with Lagos matter in Lagos. Let's talk about what's the experience in Rivers State.
Okay, so over the weekend, as we all know, the APC House of Representatives primaries held here in Rivers State. I covered mostly Obiakpo and then parts of Emo, our local government as well. So, but it was holding everywhere. Now, we know that the member representing Obiakpo Federal Constituency, the Right Honorable Ogundu Kingsley Kinda, is no longer returning to the House of Representatives. And the current Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, the Right Honorable Martin Amewole, has been tipped to replace Kinda. And interestingly, for Obiakpo Federal Constituency, Amewole was the only person who purchased a form for that particular constituency in the APC. Now, of course, you do recall that there was some controversy with the House of Assembly screening and the House of Representatives screening in the APC. Indeed, we saw sitting members of the House of Representatives in the APC, sitting members of the House of Reps screened out, you know. And when I did try to find out what were the reasons, we saw the reasons for the House of Assembly. Some of them were adduced, which the last time I was here, you mentioned yourself. But for the House of Representatives, nothing was said, you know. So, but they've done what they've done. People like Honorable Boma Goodhead, people like Honorable Awagis Inombek Abiante, these are sitting members from Calabari and Andoni respectively, have been screened out as well. Just like you mentioned at the start of this conversation about fighting for your political future, we had one of them run away from the APC. I think he's in the NDC now, contesting on his own, Honorable Manuchin from Port Harcourt constituency. So he is probably fighting for his political future, standing on his own. So that was it from the House of Representatives committee, House of Representatives primary for the APC, and then the People's Democratic Party held theirs yesterday. But you would really struggle to see any reports from the PDP across television anywhere, because it seemed as though they went to great lengths not to allow television stations, you know, or media organizations to actually actively cover their own primaries that held yesterday. Because I kept calling the publicity secretary, I kept calling, you know, there was no response. We had to go around. We did see places where they were wrapping up, you know, but there was one place we went to and they said, oh no, we don't want cameras here. We turned, we left. We're not here to fight with anybody. And then for the senatorial primaries holding today, and once again, a list has been released showing that 8 people were screened. Out of the 8, 4 of them were cleared, 4 were not cleared. Among those not cleared, that's where the news is. Among those not cleared are the former governor of Rivers State, the deputy governor to His Excellency, the current FCT minister. Her name is Ipalibo Banibo, and she's one of, I think, 3 female senators in the current assembly. We have the former SSG, Chief Sami Danagogo. He was not cleared to contest. And then we have former presidential aspirant and the oil tycoon, Team Jack Rich. But then one of these, I mean, the former deputy governor and the former SSG are, the former SSG is a known loyalist of the current governor. The former deputy governor is believed to have some sympathy towards him, but he has steered clear of public speeches, But then the interesting person that was not cleared is Ojuka Flag Amakri, who is the current Director of Energy Security at the Office of the National Security Advisor. Interestingly, he's what do you call it, a loyalist or a supporter now of the FCT minister, but somehow he was not cleared. So the other four that were cleared are Prof. Felix Obua, go round, sitting senator from this senatorial district where we are, Rivers Southeast, Orwell, Onyeso, and then two other new people who I don't really know. So that's the summary. Later today, we're going to be going out to cover the senatorial primaries across the states. Jeff.
Okay, Charles, maybe two questions in one. How is the latest baby, the NDC, how are they gathering momentum in Rivers State? And then you cover Rivers. What's the word on the streets for the average Rivers resident? What are they saying? What can you hear?
Okay, so let me address your first question first. The NDC, I spoke with the chairman. In fact, I'm scheduled to have an interview with the chairman later today. I spoke with the chairman of the NDC in Rivers State, Mr. Success Jack, and he said, we are working on a consensus arrangement. That was the message I got. So it seems like the NDC is towing the path of consensus in Rivers State, not the path of direct primaries. But we are going to see how that's going to happen. I don't know if their office that was under renovation has been completed now, but I will go to find out later today. And then about the word on the street, of course, people on the streets of Rivers, there are differing opinions. There are some of them, when you go out to a public place to sit down and listen to them, some who say, oh, the governor should have, agreed to his agreements or adhered to his agreement with the FCT minister. And then there are others who go like, oh, what they're doing to the governor is not good. They should allow him to contest and all that. So there will always be a divergence, a plurality of opinions.
All right, Charles. We're totally out of time. But just before I let you go, so you can confirm that Honorable Chinda is in the APC and has bought the form and is running for governor, right?
Yes, he's running for governor.
Yeah, because I haven't seen him. He's the minority leader of the Senate.
House of Reps.
House of Reps. My apologies. I don't know whether he has defected publicly yet, because I'm trying to get hold of that fact.
So that was the question. That was the question we asked when we saw him go for screening. When we saw him go for screening, at the Plateau Governor's Lodge in Abuja, Asokoro. And the information we got when we started asking around was that he doesn't have to publicly defect. There's no law for him to publicly defect. As long as he has written the letter, privately saying, oh, I have left this party.
But he's still the minority leader. How is he minority leader as a member of the ruling party? Oh, politics. Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. We'll go on this quick break. Charles, the very best for the day. Whatever updates you have, we'd like to get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
We'll take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll bring you the conversation around health, which is very important. Stay with us. Welcome back. We'll get to health in just a second. We're just if you just joined us, we're just chatting with our correspondent, Charles Oprun, who was talking about when you defect, it mustn't be public. That's a lie. It has to be public, because if you're a member of a legislature, when you defect, you will communicate in a letter to the Speaker or the Senate President, who will read it to the House that you have actually moved party at plenary, and plenary is public. So whoever is carrying that story around, defecting must not be public. Registration can be secret, but that you have defected, everybody will know, because it will be read on the floor of the House. But let's leave politics for a moment. Ebola outbreak in the DRC is very concerning for all of us, because Ebola has happened in Nigeria and has taken lives many years ago. So whatever is happening on the continent, because of the porous border and how Africa is important we raise that awareness. The world is now dealing with Ebola, dealing with hantavirus. We are dealing here in Africa, in Nigeria, with Lassa fever. So the person that will give us the insight that we need to have and the information that we require to be able to brace up. Is here with us Dr. Abdullahi Nasiru. He's a consultant clinical microbiologist from the Federal Medical Center in Abuja. He's also the head of Department Medical and Microbiology, FMC Abuja, acting chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association, FCT branch, Abuja. Doctor, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and good morning, viewers.
Doctor, let's allow you tell us what we are. Let's begin with the most dangerous, perhaps, if you can, the one that is playing out in the DRC. I think the report we got is about 80 deaths already. Some persons were not born, very young people were not born when Ebola happened in Nigeria, but a lot of people know about Ebola. Maybe you can walk us through what this disease is and how dangerous it is and what you think is our level of preparedness. Then we can come to issues around Lassa fever.
Okay, thank you very much. Ebola is actually a viral disease caused by Ebola virus. It is a zoonotic viral disease usually transmitted from animals, particularly chimpanzee, gorilla, monkeys, and even fruit bats. It can equally be transmitted from infected individuals, persons, by way of contact with secretions, their blood, feces, other forms of secretions, vomit, and so on and so forth. Also, consumption of dead animals that might have been infected and died from the disease, as bushmeat, can equally be a source of transmission of the disease. The virus belongs to a member of the family we call Filoviridae. And one major issue about it is the fact that it causes fever and bleeding, particularly in the later stage. In the early stage, the symptoms resemble essentially those of malaria, typhoid, Shigella, a form of dysentery disease, and even in some cases, you could have some symptoms that may mimic meningitis. There is need for us to actually, because of the fact that some of these illnesses that are prevalent in our environment that may mimic, that Ebola symptoms may mimic, may be the reason why, one of the reasons why we may need to, have a high index of suspicion, particularly at this particular time where we have an outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and even in Uganda. So because some of these cases may come to the hospital and you think they are the usual malaria symptoms and so on and so forth, and that index of suspicion may not be there, and the consequences that may go with it. As per the level of preparedness, well, I want to believe that the agency responsible for coordination and control of diseases, for example, NCDC, is alive to its responsibility. I was privileged to have listened to a release by the DG of the agency, Dr. Jabi Idris, where he has assured Nigerians to remain calm and just to be vigilant, because heightened surveillance have been mounted at our entry points, particularly at the ports. And, he has also reached out to the Federal Ministry of Health to ensure that port health services, the personnel there have been activated to ensure that the required surveillance are mounted at our entry points. But one major issue is the issue of the porosity of our borders, because apart from those that will enter through the ports, there are borders through which people enter, and, there is concern that, if those entering are infected, they may actually serve a source of transmission. So it's important that at various entry points and at our borders, efforts should be made to ensure that surveillance is actively mounted and aggressively, given effect to.
Dr. Nasiri, well, it's official. The World Health Organization, that's WHO, has declared that this is a public health emergency of international concern. And I'm reading that the current strain in DRC is caused by a virus called Bundibugyo. I hope I got that correctly. And the agency says that there is no approved drugs or vaccines for this current virus or variant of the virus now. So I'm just wondering, how do you and your colleagues intend to handle this situation, since there's no current vaccines for this strain of the virus. Question 2, isn't this a shame that a disease or an outbreak from the continent, perhaps it looks like we are waiting for the international community, like we did with the pandemic with COVID, to bring solution to a challenge right here from the continent? Dr. Nasiru.
Yes, you are correct. The current strain causing outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda is Bundibio strain, which, as you have said, has no approved treatment and vaccine. It's really concerning as a matter of fact, because the one that has usually, caused outbreaks, which also occurred in 2014 in Nigeria, is the Zaire strain, which has approved treatment and vaccine. It's really concerning as a matter of fact. However, one thing about Ebola, even though it is life-threatening and fatal, if those who have the infection are able to present early at designated treatment points, early enough, some measures can be taken regarding supportive care, aggressive supportive care that will be able to a very large extent, ameliorate the situation and possibly help the patient in surviving. So, detecting early cases, reporting those cases early, and aggressive supportive treatment along with other measures can actually help, even though there are no approved treatments and vaccine for the disease. Then, concerning the issue of having to wait for foreign countries to, we are Africa, unfortunately. There are actually some products under development, at some stages. It's just that they are yet to be finalized, to be approved for use as drug and vaccine. So let's be hopeful. Maybe one day, those drugs may be available and the vaccine, but to say that there is nothing at all, there are products that are actually under investigation. Thank you.
Anyway, we should just be proactive. I think that's what we're trying to preach here. Just not wait to be reactive. But let's talk about what Nigerians would like to know, perhaps, is how to get prepared yet again. Some persons were not in country, some people were not born, like the very young people. But a lot of us were experiencing, 2014, that Ebola outbreak. Nigeria did its best to be able to contain it, but the casualties were recorded. So what should we be doing now? Now we're dealing with, so speak to an average Nigerian how to either brace up, prepare, the level of caution that is required, how to even dress, do we need PPEs? I'm talking about we're dealing with hantavirus in far away somewhere, that people come to our country. We're talking about Ebola. I just was joking that I said our president and his team just came back from East Africa recently. And then we have the Lassa fever. What should be the boxes citizens must tick right now in going out and coming in?
Okay, I must mention that as of now, there is no reported case of Ebola in Nigeria. And honestly speaking, there is no need for panic, as has been said by NCDC. However, that is not to say that we must not take precautionary and proactive measures to ensure that, whatever happens, at least people are not infected and the transmission is... So those basic things that borders on infection prevention and control must be, implemented at this point in time, either at the level of the hospital or in the community, particularly hand hygiene, hand washing. This has been one, of the most, effective infection prevention and control measure practices that has been found to, prevent transmission of infection in about 90% of cases. So Nigerians should, do more in terms of washing their hands, regularly, because this disease, Ebola, is a disease that is transmitted by contact with secretions, from either infected individuals or individuals that might have died of the disease. Secretions including blood, feces, vomitus, and all other body secretion, even organs. So it's even on surfaces that some of these secretions have actually made contact with, one can actually get that from them. So it's important that we heighten our hand hygiene practices and also ensure that cough etiquette. This is not the time that people should just cough anyhow and throw those sputum. There are appropriate ways to make sure that all these things are done in order to. Then, in addition, I think there is also need for government and relevant agencies to heighten public awareness, public health education, creation of awareness, and so on and so forth is very important, because in 2014, that really helped. The community engagement really helped. Public health education via radio, and all one-on-one with the community leaders, religious leaders, really helped in helping to contain it. I think we must begin to look at those things that gave us that success story in 2014 and bring them back. Because we have to leverage the existing infrastructure and everything that was done then that was able to help us minimize the fatality rate associated with the disease. So hand hygiene, major infection prevention and control measures should be implemented at this point in time so as to be able to, contain.
Dr. Nasiru, let's turn to food. You know how we are in this part of the world. We don't joke with our belly. So in terms of food, are you saying we should avoid bushmeat totally this period? Because as we speak, there are people who are listening to you from different regions of the country or aspects of the country, and they do not joke with their bushmeat. So are you saying stay away from bushmeat this period, or which meats do we stay away from completely? And then the arguments for the African man sometimes is that, what if I boil these meats very, very well? Or what if I roast this meat, or it is grilled? Is there a way out of it? Because I know that Professor Aki Abayomi, the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, I think also responded to the Lassa fever trending story as well, and the fact that even if you boil tomatoes, which is almost rotten, it's still a risk.
Exactly. Honestly speaking, at this point in time, I think we must be cautious. The kind of food we eat, particularly bushmeat, all those people that consume chimpanzee, monkey, gorilla, porcupines, and so on and so forth. At least we should be very cautious about it, because there is no amount of roasting or whatever you want to do that you can have an assured mechanism of finding out that if the virus is there, it has been actually, inactivated or killed. So it's important that at this point in time, we should be very careful with what we eat, especially animals or food from unknown sources. We should be very careful with them. So that will not kill us. There are always alternative food that we can actually consume in place of those foods.
All right. I'm also a bit concerned for you and your colleagues and other frontline workers. 2014, Stella Adedevor stood her grounds as a physician and saved millions of Nigerians from Patrick Sawyer from Liberia, who had come into the country infected. And I remember he had to be quarantined and all of that. For instance, how things are currently, I'm wondering the mental states of you and your colleagues for another outbreak or possible outbreak in the continent and possibly Nigeria. I'm just wondering, because a lot of your colleagues have left the country. Those who are still around, some of you are still around because, maybe you're making plans to either leave or hoping that things get better. So what's the mental state of you and your colleagues and other frontline workers to handle this outbreak?
Even in attending to routine cases that come to the hospital, I'm talking about times of, I'm not talking about times of epidemics. Our morale is very, very low, honestly speaking. You have said it all, that most of our colleagues have actually left the country in search of greener pastures, where living conditions and condition of services are far better. In Nigeria, the situation. It has been in the news, in the media, for years. The condition of service of doctors and other healthcare workers is very, very poor. And I can tell you that the morale is very, very low, and it's going to be challenging if, outside the period of epidemic, the morale is low, and this particular issue is coming on board now. Honestly speaking, it's really going to weigh so much on us as a healthcare practitioners.
Doctor, let's talk about what can be done at our gateways. If you were to advise the federal government, I'm sure they have NCDC and all of these agencies. I know the NCDC has said, don't worry, no cause for alarm. We don't need to wait for things to happen because we're very reactive sometimes as a continent. We're waiting for things to happen, then we'll start running out of skelter. What I think I'm asking you to help us do is, if you were to advise the government at airports, at seaports, what should we be seeing that will give us confidence that the Nigerian government at the subnational and at the federal level is ensuring that this thing doesn't get into our country, whether it's hantavirus, whether it's the dangerous one called Ebola? What should we be seeing when we travel, especially at the international airports? We have a few of them in the country. What should we be seeing right now?
Okay, thank you very much. Particularly those coming from these countries where this outbreak is currently ongoing, I think we need to mount an aggressive surveillance in our airports. You know, it's not the usual idea of, oh, this is a big man coming from those countries, they should just be allowed in, considering VIP status. No. The aggressive surveillance must be mounted and across these entry points, and those people coming from those countries should actually be quarantined to ensure that they don't manifest some of these symptoms, usually within 21 days before they, they are allowed in. And they may equally be screened alongside, if they don't manifest with symptoms, to be sure that they are, free of the virus to get. However, there are existing infrastructure that can be leveraged on. For example, our laboratory, the government has actually built capacity in terms of laboratory testing. Healthcare workers have been trained. It's just to let us know that not long ago, we dealt with COVID. In 2014, it was Ebola. So much has been done, to be candid, in terms of training of healthcare personnel in this regard, testing in the laboratory. Government also need to ensure that the public is carried along. There is need for awareness creation, for people to know that there is something actually happening like this in neighboring countries, and that it has a potentiality if, at the end of the day, a case unfortunately gets into the country. So government needs to continue to do aggressive, sensitization exercise on hand hygiene. In the hospital, there is what we call precautions that should be taken. We call it standard precautions for healthcare workers. So you must not assume now that anybody coming to see you in the hospital is totally free or you must presume that such a person harbors some infectious material or organism, and therefore standard precautions must be taken. And in the event that you suspect some of the symptoms that may be related to Ebola, then you must add some extra precautions, we call additional precautions, and get those people appropriately isolated, and of course government should at this point in time also be thinking of bringing on board all those centers created then for Ebola. That's
all right,
emergency operation centers.
Yes, well, sir, I wanted to find out, will it be paranoia if we now have quarantine centers at the airport as we speak, so that especially people from, say, Rwanda, the DRC, countries that share border with DRC, if anybody is coming from those countries, we should keep them somewhere for at least, I don't know, is it 7 days now or 21 days? Or 30 days?
About 21 days.
I'm saying that, is it going to be too much paranoia if we begin to do that like yesterday?
For now, because we work with evidence, empirical evidence, the evidence we have for now is that this epidemic is still limited to Democratic Republic of Congo, and a few cases have also been seen in Uganda. For now, our attention should be focused on these ones. Yes, we do understand that people move about, travel from one region or country to the other, but evidence-based practice is that it is in those areas, where this epidemic is currently ongoing, that we should, particularly deploy our energy towards ensuring that people coming from those regions are quarantined appropriately at the ports of entry.
All right. Doctor, thank you so much. We hope it doesn't get here, and we hope it doesn't hit us yet again, because the last experience was not funny at all. Dr. Abdullahi Nasiru is a consultant clinical microbiologist at the FMC Abuja. He also heads the medical laboratory there. He's the acting chairman of NMA at the FCT, in the FCT that's in Abuja. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, from health, let's turn our attention now to something else very, very essential indeed for Nigerians. Well, it has to do with the trips Mr. President has made in the last few weeks. The three-nation trip, first to France, and then Kenya, and then Rwanda. Let's get to unpack all of this as we pay attention to what played out at the Africa Forward Summit. It's also tagged France Africa Forward Summit. Even the name alone, it's a bit disturbing for some Nigerians. And we're joined this hour by a distinguished Nigerian diplomat, author, and writer. He's also the former DG of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Professor Bola Akintewa joins us live from Owo in Ondo State. Prof, good to see you this morning. I'm not sure exactly where to begin this conversation from. I'm not sure. Perhaps we should begin from the fact that it took a president of France, Emmanuel Macron, to take to the stage and caution African leaders who were at that gathering to keep quiet and pay attention to what was ongoing, on stage. How did you find that? Professor Akintewa, I'm not sure if you... Oh, okay. I'm told that...
Yes, okay. I can hear you now.
All right. Did you hear my question, Prof?
Hello?
Yes, Prof. I was asking you just a moment ago, what's your assessment and how you took the fact that it took the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, to take to the center stage and called for a sort of decorum among African leaders. The event was becoming rowdy, and he had to take Mr. Macron to take to the stage and call other Africans to order, sort of.
Yeah. If I can hear you well. You know, hello?
Go ahead, Prof. We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, Prof.
Oh dear. So let's see whether we can reconnect with the professor. The president, for the record, was on a three-nation tour. He started off in France and then headed down to Nairobi in Kenya, where the government of the Republic of Kenya, in collaboration with the French government, had the Africa Forward Summit. And then from there, the president headed down to Kigali, Rwanda, for the African CEO Forum. Prof, welcome back. We hope you can hear us now. Can you hear us? Professor Akintewa, can you hear us, sir? Oh, there. So maybe we will try and sort out issues that has to do with the connection with Prof, because we want to look at the diplomatic element of what played out in this three-nation tour and what is in it for Nigerians as far as the gains of that particular trip by the president is concerned. But broadly speaking, the conversations that were held by African leaders, whether this is going to be different. But it was quite impressive to see that this summit is not hosted outside the continent. Some people are saying that, look, France has been chased out of the Sahel. Their influence is waning on the continent, so they are looking for a leeway. That's why they had to go all the way to an Anglophone country to aggregate the interest of Africans. Whether this is just them doing a silo move as against what, as that was going on, remember also that Trump was in Beijing in China, two global world powers. But we'll switch gears now. Let's bring in Mr. Dixon Osagie, who is a security consultant. He heads the Breeze Security Intelligence. Mr. Osagie, thank you so much for coming on the program. If you can help us unmute your device.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. Let's get straight. Yes, let's get straight to. Some things happened at the weekend as we got the report from the federal government. One was the economic issue that had to do with our rating by S&P, a credit rating agency, but the other has to do with security, where we understand an ISIS deputy commander was right here in the country and he was neutralized. How did that news come to you?
Well, Geoffrey, that news came to me as a shock because we never got any intelligence about the commander. I think the last time we heard about him was in 2024. But the military has come out to clarify the fact that, of the truth, one of the commander bearing the same name was eliminated in 2024. And I agree with the military because most of these commanders, what they do is that the name is like a structure. You know, they pass it around each time you eliminate their commander so that the name does not die. It happens in Afghanistan, it happens in other, terrorist-prone states, and as well here in Nigeria. It has happened before, where we have some commanders being eliminated and somebody is being sworn in and also take over that name. But for me, I think the elimination of the commander is a welcome development, but it's not worth celebrating because it piqued my imagination where we have the Nigerian army and the military going after one man and celebrating the death of that man, which a section of soldiers in the army can eliminate. I don't see that as a celebration, and for me, I don't think that's worth celebrating because what we need in Nigeria is total peace. What Nigeria is total of eliminate the threat of the devil in our country, Nigeria, because as it is, Nigeria is now, the discourse in the international community, and if we don't tackle this spirit of insecurity and this terrorism strictly, I tell you, we'll be moving to a failed state. And as it is now, if you look at the global terrorism index. Presently, I think we're sitting on the third position, and that's not good for us, the country. We need to get out of that position and ensure that we go after these criminals from all nooks and crannies of the country and eliminate them. If you ask me from my own honest view, I don't think we even needed the U.S. support, but it's taking long. It has taken so long. 15 years down the line, our military are still engaging these guys. And I welcome the support from the U.S. military, and I think it's a welcome development, and we should start looking at going after their commanders. In exception of going after their commanders at Geoffrey, we need to start looking at the sponsors. Where are their sponsors? Where are they getting the arms and ammunition from? Because if you keep on killing these guys, killing their commanders, you kill them to eternity. You need to look at the, their economic, structure. You need to look at their, supply structure. You need to also look at their employment methodology. How did they get their fighters from? Where did they employ their fighters and move them down to their combat zone? Do they go by air, by sea, or by land? We need to start looking at those, tactical disposition of these gangsters and criminal elements that have staged a war against Nigeria.
Some will argue that killing a commander is really, or a deputy commander in this sense, is really a big deal because they manage intelligence, they manage operational coordination and all of that. But in addition to that, how do you deal with people that are driven more by ideology than anything else? So if you look at what is happening in Iran, for instance, the Shiite government led by the revolution government, they are fundamentally ideologues. And so the way America read the room, is just as an outsider watching, it's not going to be a walk in the park because they knew this will happen one day. They are prepared for this. They are even prepared for worse. But let's come back home. Our country, we've been dealing with it for maybe 15 years or so. The height of terrorism. And the problem is we're dealing with people that are driven by an ideology. We have not been able to succeed the way we want to be successful as far as this fight is concerned. What should change?
Fantastic question. I want to talk about the elimination of commanders. It's a welcome development, like I rightly said, but it's not what's jubilating from national forces and the United States. What that does is that it demoralizes the fighters' morale. It also, demotivates them, which is also one of the strategies of counter-terrorism. It's a good one, but when you eliminate the commander, just for a short period of time, these guys will, approve and also, appoint another commander. Now, coming back to your question, Geoffrey, it's so sad that we are living in this mess in our country, Nigeria, and I think security is achievable, and I will tell you the truth. It's achievable in the sense that we don't have all the information in place to go after these criminal elements. They just sometimes capitalize on our vulnerable states. And I tell you that if we want to get it right and start taking out most of the sponsors of this criminal element, we'll be able to mitigate this high speed of insecurity be developed in our country. But first of all, we need to start looking at the punitive measures. What are the punitive measures in place? As we speak right now, there is an RRR program in place, a reintegration rehabilitation program in place by the state. And those guys that you are rehabilitated and reintegrating into the society, do you have a database that can monitor, their character and also where they are, where they move? Because some of them can come to the RRR by deception, just to try and see if they can get into the military or betray the military. As we speak, some information are flying around the corner that some of these people that are being reintegrated by the Nigerian government have gone back to the state, serving in the military, the police, and some other locations. And some of them have gone back to their criminal enclave and also, cut away some arms. I have not verified that fact for sure, but I strongly believe that if we want to get it right, we need to establish a special court here in our country, whereby we'll have a speedy trial of this criminal element to ensure that those who kill our brothers and sisters, those who kill our military officers and men, those who kill our police officers are tried with speed and momentum and ensure that they are awarded the punishment so that it will serve as a deterrence mechanism to would-be sponsors or would-be terrorists or some criminal elements. But here we have cases, taking 6 months, 1 year, 2 years before you can, try criminal elements. I would suggest the federal government just establish a special court for these guys. Then secondly, I think the government needs to start looking at, motivation of our officers and men, which is very, very important because these are the guys that put their life on the line to take out this criminal element, treating them by day, afternoon, and night to ensure that Nigerians breathe again. And if we don't take good care of them, their morale will dissipate. And instead, you want their morale to dissipate, they won't be able to go after this criminal element. And that's why you see crime begins to flourish. So I think the government should look into that aspect. And also, Geoffrey, one other important aspect is social contract between the state and the people. You look at what's happening in the country right now, you discover that the people have been neglected by the state. Election is coming, and I tell you, Geoffrey, a lot of people are going to capitalize on the mantra of security, which tells you that some state governors who are very good in centralizing their problem, each time there's an inspector, each time there's a security issue, they run to Abuja, they will come back and try to campaign on security issues and also on the mantra of security to ensure that the people vote them. And when they get into power, they tend to leave everything for the federal government. Now, Geoffrey, we need to start asking our state governors questions because if you have 36 states in this country, you have governors who are supposed to, take charge of those states. We need to start asking them what are they doing with our security funds. A lot of billions, made to understand that over 700 or 600 billion naira is being given to them monthly as stand to be corrected. And also, what do they do with those funds? If you are being given security funds, what are the equipment or what security equipment are they purchased? If you look at, hostile surveillance, for example, or surveillance activities from every given state, how many helicopters can we be proud of in Edo State, for example, my state? How many helicopters we have that can hover around the sky and chase these people from the sky to ensure that they don't kidnap our people, run to the, ungovernable places where they take shelter from and take shelter from that place. So the government has a lot to do, and state governors, the people of this country must start holding state governors accountable, not just the presidency or Abuja or the presidency. Every state governor must account for the security votes that are being given to them by the federal government, and they must utilize that money effectively to ensure that the people of that state are well protected. Looking from the urban area and the rural area, they must protect their people from the east, west, south, and north within every given state. So I think state governors has a lot to do as well, and must hold them accountable.
I totally agree with you, Dr. Sagi. Speaking about states, or your state is in the news, the governor of that state declared that he wants to become president. 24 hours later, the principal, teachers, and I think students were abducted. There is a viral video where the principal and I think some teachers were, are seen appealing for help and appealing for their rescue. It's a very devastating video. For those who I've had the opportunity to speak to people who have been kidnapped. It's not a place you want to be or want even your worst enemy to be. So I'm particularly concerned because when students are being kidnapped, in Borno State as well, early hours of this morning, we are hearing reports that about 45 persons too have been kidnapped. Help frame this for our viewers around the world. Do you think that, in all sincerity and honesty, our leaders are perhaps clueless, helpless, or shameless? Because what we hear is that these things happen and they put up statements. They put up press releases. We will deal with them decisively. And after that, it is back until the next kidnap is done. It's been happening in Kwara State, attacks over attacks, and now in Oyo State, we are seeing that it's getting even closer and closer to this region.
A fantastic question. You say kidnapping has evolved into a dangerous and criminal economy. And I think it must be treated as a national emergency. We're not looking at it from an emergency perspective. For me, I think the government should declare kidnapping as an emergency situation. I saw the video, Joe, my brother, and I think I was so worried. The first thing that came to my mind was, what if this is my mother? Or what if this was my mother? I felt so sad watching that woman play for her. And that's one thing the government needs to also understand, that these criminal elements are not after the people. And I have said it on many fora, that any victim of kidnap, they are not victims, they are not the direct victims. They are secondary victims from a criminology perspective. The state government is the primary victim. Until the state begins to see themselves as the victim of kidnapping, victim of terrorism, they will act swiftly and ensure that they declare kidnapping as a state of emergency and also a death sentence to kidnappers. We have one or two kidnappers in the prison, like Evans, the kidnapper, who once came to learn negative light, and he was addressed as the billionaire kidnapper. And a lot of guys feel that, oh man, there's billions of naira in kidnapping, and people are now commercializing kidnapping and thinking that that is the only way they can get rich quick, simply because they knew that the government cannot get them quickly. So for me, when I played that video, Geoffrey, I had a sleepless night. I must be frank with you, because the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, what a beautiful woman. In the days of this enemy, and the only offense she committed was being a Nigerian, and also the state has failed her. The government has failed her, and the security agency of this great country has also failed her. We shouldn't be perturbed. I strongly believe that Nigeria will be great again. But if we want to be great, we need to start having strategy, document in place, policies in place that can govern our security agents. As we speak now, most of these state governors, they don't have security plan, they don't have security strategy. If I ask Governor Makinde now, what is your state security strategy? How do you respond to incidents like this when they occur? What plans do you have in place? Do you have a rapid response team in place? And that's why we advise that every state in Nigeria, not exempted, every state in Nigeria, not state should be exempted, should establish a rapid response squad that will deal with kidnap issues with speed and momentum, so that when there's a kidnap incident, what they do is that they move swiftly with their helicopters, with their vehicles and everything, go after this incident, go after this criminal, and ensure that they don't have a comfort zone or where to reside, or take these our people to and start maltreating them and get back to the state. I tell you, it's a regrettable situation, and Nigeria needs to know that our people, governance is all about the protection of lives and property. I hate to having this issue.
Yes,
it's going to be a dirty one for our states.
I hate to hold brief for these governors, but perhaps the argument is that yes, they have the tag as the security chief officer of their state, but in the reality, they cannot even control the commissioner of police in their states. I mean, I hate to hold brief for them, but that's part of the argument for some of these governors.
Okay, well, the argument is fine, but I tell you, if that is the argument, then they should stop taking security votes. They should refund the money back to Abuja, if that is the argument. You see, it's not about...
I'm with you on this. I'm totally with you on this, actually.
You say what?
I am totally with you, Dr. Sagi, on this. They should return the security votes, perhaps, so that...
Yeah, if you think they are handicapped or they cannot, respond or speak to the commissioner of police, they should refund the security votes. Now, the security is very sensitive. It has some measures in place. It's not about being reactionary or speaking with the commissioner of police. It's all about putting in strategy in place to forestall that incident, to prevent that incident from happening. That is being proactive, being proactive, and also not being too much of reactionary. But here in our country, we are too much. We are so reactive in our security incident, which is very, very, very wrong. So the preventive measures, that's where the government comes to play. Take the security vote. Build a community of intelligence guys, community-led policing, or some people, like we have Amotek, what are they doing? Do they have intelligence information? Do they get intelligence from the state and from the criminal enclave and send to the state? Because before these criminals strike, these criminals, I tell you, what they do is that they also carry out a surveillance activity before they strike. And after carrying that surveillance, they go and strike. So that's why we have counter-surveillance. What is the state doing in the area of counter-surveillance? Which is very, very important.
All right, Mr. Sagi, I think there's something a bit more disturbing, if you don't mind. And I've just been processing it, and we've talked about this over and over, is what you can argue to be the complicity of the state. Somebody would say, I don't know whether it's a former general or former military head of state that said any crime that lasts more than maybe 48 hours, the state is involved. Now, where I'm particularly concerned is that it looks like the political class, they are taking turns to make Nigeria ungovernable. Their own words now. Remember, the PDP had accused the APC of being responsible for bringing the Boko Haram. The vice president sometimes jokes around, he said, but they said, because there was a time he was introducing his aides, his CSO, his chief security and all of that. So he was saying this person is from this region, that person is from that region. And he was saying, look, but they say I'm the one that brought in Boko Haram. Now, recently, the Senate president also talked about the fact that he knows that after the election, 2 weeks after the election, all of this will be over. More like the enemies of the government are trying to make the state ungovernable. The president himself, when he was meeting with the leaders from Plateau, after he visited Plateau and he said they should meet him in Abuja, more like telling them, don't make your state a killing field, because these people, they don't want me to, they want to make the place ungovernable for me, paraphrasing, they want to make the place ungovernable for me. They don't want me to campaign, but I will campaign for my re-election. So it looks like politicians, from these remarks I've just brought out, are taking turns. When is this party's turn? For however they do it, they take turn to make Nigeria ungovernable. The other party's turn. Are we in a helpless situation because, quote and unquote, the political class are not responsible enough?
Excellent submission, Geoffrey, and I agree with you 100%. And also strongly, state that the Nigerian politicians, for instance, they failed the country. And I will tell you that for true, they failed us. And we all listen, we all hear, we all see what's going around within Nigerian territorial space. And truly, everybody want to take turn. And so sad, Geoffrey, whenever an incident happens, most of these politicians want to use that incident as a campaign mantra against the sitting government. Maybe, for example, President Ebola now is going for 2027 election, and maybe an incident happened in Maiduguri, whatever the case may be. Some politicians want to capitalize on that incident, to attack the sitting government and tell Nigerians they can do better. For me, I think that's an abuse on the victims. That's a shame to these people, because whatever the case, Nigeria comes first. Whatever the case, the state comes first, the people come first. What do you do as an opponent? What do you do as an opponent is that you can also as well sometimes, support the state before campaign or whatever the case may be. And if you have anything you want to use for campaign, put that rightly. But don't, capitalize or pray for incidents to occur so that you, succeed the next government or be in charge of the next governor or be the next governor or the next president. I don't see that as politicking. I see that as an act of animal behavior from our political leaders, because the Nigerian state comes first and we must respect the Nigerian people. If you don't respect the Nigerian people, people begin to take turn. It's my turn. It's my turn. Even the president rightly said it some few years ago that it's his turn. He has taken his turn. Maybe he wants to go for the second batch of his turn. I don't know. I wish him good luck. But what we need as a country is that we need an effective protection of our people. It is doable. I have said it. Ensure that you have a lot of money, to dispense for arms and equipment. Take very good care of the people that are in charge of our security design. Geoffrey, I want to tell you, I was in a Ikeja cantonment last week. There's no electricity. I was in Air Force Base. There's no electricity. These guys, officers and men who sworn an oath to protect the territorial integrity of this country, are living in darkness. And the next morning you give a fighter pilot a jet to go and bombard somewhere in Maiduguri, and you think you will not miss target after waking up from a dark night? A lot of things we need to do a lot of things for our great country, and also ensure we motivate our officers and men to ensure that they carry out the right thing. And as well, our policing system also have a lot to do. The military must not, be politicized. They should take a departure from politics. The Nigerian policing system should take a departure from politics and ensure that their allegiance is to the people. But what we have now, security agencies' allegiance is to the politicians, and we need to write that wrong. Yes, correctly.
Let me just take you back briefly as we round off our conversation with you to the killing of the second-in-command of ISIS leader globally. I'm not sure how Nigerians are trying to comprehend that the fact that the second-in-command has been right here with us in Nigeria. But listen to the words of President Donald Trump, who had to break this news first to Nigerians and the world. He said, "Tonight, at my direction, brave American forces and the armed forces of Nigeria, at President Trump's direction." That's number one question mark for me. Secondly, when the Nigerian government, okay, fantastic, our producer has it on the screen for our viewers to see. And then when there was a reaction from Bayo Ononuga and subsequently from the televised interview with the director of Nigeria's Defense Media Operations, Major General Onoja, Michael Onoja, he explained that the U.S. military provided intelligence and surveillance support while Nigeria deployed boots on the ground for the operation. So it took the U.S. government to provide surveillance and intelligence reports to the Nigerian government. Fantastic. You have the statements there on your screen for our viewers to see. It took the U.S. government to provide intelligence. And your opening thought, you actually said that there was no intelligence about that particular attack. So does this also perhaps, confirms the fact that there's a huge question mark around intelligence gathering? How it takes someone in the U.S. to see that a second in command, a threat, a major terrorist is here, and we cannot see it. But we are happy to brag that we had men to deploy to the ground, or boots on ground, but we don't have intelligence gathering. Big question mark, Dr. Sage, don't you think?
Don't be angry, my brother. I think that's the state to find ourselves in our country, and I need to also let you understand that the U.S. did very well in the area of intelligence. I've said this on many forums that arms and ammunition does not bring victory. Intelligence is one of the strongest components for the survival of any given country. Any country that wants to survive and doesn't have an effective intelligence network and intelligence measures in measures in place, I tell you, the country will fail, and that is one of the major reasons we are failing. We'll be failing, and we keep on failing because of intelligence. We have the NIA, we have the DSS, we have most of this, intelligence network. What is the government doing about these people? I want to advise that most of this advanced technology. I was in America last year, for a security conference. I couldn't find any of our security agents, both the police, the army, and the navy. Where we have a lot of intelligence equipment, a lot of intelligence network, technological equipment that you can use to support the state to fight against these terrorists. You can also have mobile surveillance equipment as well. So for me, I think intelligence has failed, and we need to go back and revamp our intelligence agencies. We need to also restructure them and also ensure that we get them the appropriate equipment, and also our satellite imagery. What are we doing with it? Because how can you kidnap a mother and children, some people from a place, and take them to another place, and nobody can find where they are? That tells you that our satellite imagery, we need to ask our government to release our satellite. We need to have effective satellite in place that can hover around our territorial space to go after this criminal element. It's so sad we have the America come to assist our brave officers and men, and I'm not trying to write off what our military are doing. Our military are doing so well, but their best is not good enough because we have them being killed every day. General being killed by terrorists. Brigadier General being killed. Bremer was killed. Ba was killed. General Ba was killed. 2 generals within a year killed by this criminal element. He said, no, for the military. The military should not accept that. That is not doable, and that should never happen in a state society. So I pray for our military to succeed, and we need that. All we need for our government is to have effective intelligence network.
Mr. Sage, is there anything wrong? Because I think this is the second time there's this joint operation. Remember the one that happened in Sokoto, and then this particular one that has taken out this deputy ISIS commander. Is there anything suspicious or worrying that we should be looking at when it is the United States government that announces an operation in Nigeria rather than the Nigerian government, or this is standard protocol from the security point of view?
It's not a standard protocol. I think it's all about trust psychology. And I think we have some criminal elements who are within the force, who are within the government, that pass this information to these criminal, to these terrorists. Because most times, when the government of Nigeria try to, plan an attack or carry out an activities against this criminal element, information gets to these people. You understand? And how did this information get to them? So I think United States coming on board and plan this execution is a welcome development because they are very good in information management. And here in our country, we are not good in information management. And I think that's what the military should work on, information management, which is very, very important. Information management is as good as a dead state. If you don't manage information properly is as good as a dead state. So let's see how we manage information and ensure that even without the assistance of the United States, we'll be able to, carry out this intelligence activity. But I doubt it will happen because it has been politicized, terrorism has been politicized, kidnapping has been politicized, and our politicians are not helping matters. They must remember that they will not live till eternity. That's one thing I need to remind our politicians. This morning, none of them will live till eternity. 80, 90, 100, you are gone. Everything you have fought for will be wiped out. So for me, let's put Nigeria first and put human life first so that we'll be able to have a greater country called Nigeria.
It's a fine place to anchor our conversation, and thank you for doing our politicians that very, very pivotal reminder. Dr. Dixon Osage is a security expert, is always really very passionate about security and the business of Nigeria security architecture right here in Nigeria. Thank you indeed for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
This is the morning brief. We'll take a moment now. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to something else really very essential in the FCT. We'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. The issue around Jabi Lake in Abuja has generated loads of controversy because the FCT minister has taken a decision that some residents are not comfortable with. The people in the know are right here with me and with us right here in the studio, in our Lagos studio. Mr. Patrick Alam is a legal officer of an NGO known as Space for Change. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Geoffrey.
So let's walk through people who are not familiar with Abuja. And what this, because I like to posit for the generality of the audience so that everybody has the greatest frame of reference. Yeah. What is it with this Jabi Lake?
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. So Jabi Lake is a natural reserve in Abuja. It sits on an expanse of land of over 200 hectares. And it's a recreational park where citizens, Abuja residents, go to have fun, relax, and it's, as we speak, it's a free land where citizens can simply just walk into the park and relax. It is also a very good balance of eco-diversity in Abuja. Considering the nature of Abuja, you know that there are a lot of construction and a lot of development going on, so there are buildings everywhere. But Jabi Lake provides one of the opportunity for Abuja to have green spaces where citizens...
like we're seeing.
Yes, it's a green space where you can easily, the environment is for some reason, that's a hope for us, where we have green spaces to preserve our environment. So indeed, it's something that is very particular to Abuja residents and Nigeria indeed, because this is a situation where we're talking about climate change and the problems that are associated with the environment. But here we have a space where the environment is being preserved, it's providing that balance between the environment and development. And the concern about Jabi Lake is the fact that this public space now is under the threat of being commercialized for public-private interest. And what do I mean by that? Sometime in February, the Minister of FCT announced that this public space is now being concessioned, or the FCT signed an agreement with two private companies to redevelop Jabi Lake. And the concern is that this is a public space. How far have we taken the public along in this entire redevelopment plan? So the public is not aware, they are aware that their public space, their free space is being given out to a private interest, but they don't have a voice. They have not been taken along.
So let's take it in bit, my apologies. So this is our own, in Abuja, this is our own mini Central Park, like in New York.
Exactly.
It's a green space, it's a green area. There's water body and there's a greenery all over the place. It looks very beautiful for people who haven't been there.
Yeah.
So this redevelopment, what is the minister planning to do with it? Is it turning what we're seeing into a residential area, or upgrading this area we're seeing to even be more, is it more beautiful? Will I use the word now? Or more environmentally friendly? What is the nature of the redevelopment? Before we begin to fight the idea.
Thank you very much. So That is part of the problem with this particular redevelopment because it is shrouded in secrecy. We don't exactly know what the Minister of FCT wants to do with this redevelopment idea. But what we have heard so far is that they plan to change that place into a mixed-use hub. There will be some part of it that will be allocated for residential purposes. There will be some part of it that will be allocated to commercial purposes, and a bit of it, maybe somewhere, will be used for recreation. And we thought that if this is a public space and you are going to change that whole expanse of land into all these mixed uses, the least that the public would expect is for them to be carried along and be told exactly what is in need for them. The thing is that this thing is not being redeveloped by the government. So one thing you can expect clearly is that the public may no longer have the free access they currently have to this park.
So to get to Jabi Lake is free?
For now, it is free.
Yeah. I'm saying it for the purpose of people who haven't been to Abuja.
It is free, except you want to use the facilities there. Otherwise, access to Jabi Lake
So if you want
free.
to use the place now, you pay to the FCT, as if maybe you want to do an event or what exactly?
It's a place
I'm
for
trying to
relaxing.
pause it for those
Exactly.
who don't live in Abuja, so remember that.
Yeah, so Jabi Lake is essentially free.
Okay.
Access to it is free. If you just want to hang out, you just want to relax, you just want to go and have fun, it's free. Okay. Except if you want to use facilities like the horse riding and the other facilities, side event or side attractions that you get to pay. Otherwise, it's a free space. So we are concerned that this thing, if it goes down the way it has been planned, it is heavily going to be commercialized. In fact, the companies during the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding said clearly that this is a huge investment for them. It is something that it's a pivotal point in the company's history in terms of the kind of investments they get.
Okay, so just seeing here that the FCT minister disclosed that the goal is to modernize the space into a major hub comparable to Dubai's Palm Jumeirah. He cited that the previous allottees neglected the land for 15 years. Confirm for us if that is true, because I know that Mr. Minister has been up and about the fact that lands in the VFCT were allocated to some persons, but they were abandoned for many years.
Thank you very much. The thing is, we shouldn't be so focused on who was allotted that land. We should be concerned about what is the current use of the land and what does it stand for in the FCT. The current use of the land, as we all have established here, is that it's a free space where Abuja residents go to relax, go to have fun. So it was already in active public use. But let's also go away from the use of the land. Let's come to the environmental implications of what they plan to do with that land. Because the environmental concern clearly states that we're yet to see what exactly they plan to do with that. But like I said earlier, it's going to be a mixed commercial hub, residential area, and some aspect of it will be recreation. One would expect that a project of this magnitude will have an environmental impact assessment. And this whole concerns that we have been raising won't have to go this route, because the public would have been taken along. We would have seen the environmental impact assessment, where it will show clearly the nature of development that is being proposed, and it will show clearly the environmental hazards that may result from this proposed project. Because clearly, if this project goes down the way we are seeing it being reported, then we can't have Jabi Lake. The water body, as you saw there, will no longer be the same. The water will be affected. The environmental balance, the ecological balance will no longer be the same. It
looks beautiful, but you know how government works. It has played out here in Lagos with the landmark beach where the Lagos Calabar Coastal Way has taken center stage, and most of the beaches, or some of the beaches, have had to give way. Confirm for us, are there reports of demolitions already? Because I think sometime in March there were stories around demolitions and all of that. Is that the case for those who are residents in that area?
Okay, so there were no residential homes in Jabi Lake before now. It was just a park. But I can confirm that for those who were already providing basic services like the food vendors and the small shops that were there, indeed there have been demolitions already.
All right. Have there been efforts to engage with Mr. FCT Minister? Have there been efforts to engage with him?
Yes, definitely. The coalition that the civil society coalition, part of the members, some of them will be accountability labs, spaces for change. We have made concerted effort to engage the Minister of FCT. And one of the things we've done is to send an FOI, that's the Freedom of Information request to the FCT Minister to provide details around this particular project. And we are very specific in the things that we have asked the FCT to provide, the FCT Minister to provide. The first thing is that we asked, can you give us a copy of the memorandum of understanding that was signed with these two private companies, so we know exactly what is being ceded to a private company, what aspect, or how much of public space or public asset is being ceded to a private company. We also requested the FCT Minister to provide us with a copy of the Environmental Impact Assessment, because if you look at the Environmental Impact Assessment Act of the 1992, it provides that every project of this magnitude that is supposed to be, that is being contemplated by the government or private entities must have an impact, environmental impact assessment showing the nature of damage that will occur to the environment. So that has not been, they are yet to respond to that. And lastly, we also requested that we should be shown a copy of the approved design. You asked the question earlier that what is it about Jabi? We want to see the approved design so that we won't be preempting or won't be assuming what they have told us, but we can specifically say this design, this is it.
So let's put it on record. You've not seen the design.
But
the design has not been made public.
It has not been made public. We don't know which areas are green spaces.
So the FOI has it been responded to?
No. And you know that the Freedom of Information Act 2011 specifically says, that's in section 4, it says specifically that FOI should be responded to within 7 days.
So when did you write this FOI?
And this was written since April, 8th of April 2026.
And nobody has responded
to this day, as we speak now, they have not responded to this
Which
FOI.
is the right office to write to? The reason I'm asking this question, sorry, it's not a joke. The reason, because I remember the issue of the ADC, is it ADC now? When they were about to use a facility, and then a letter was written to the FCT ministers of agriculture. They were saying the channel of writing, well, some people say it's all politics, but however, they were saying, we're not the ones, write to the minister, write to FCT and all of that. So who are you meant to write? Is it the office of the minister? What's the right? I'm just asking for the record.
The issue of FOI, it's a matter of law. So
I'm not disputing. I'm not disputing. It's because I'm telling you, trust me, I know what I'm saying. But be that as it may, if all of that fails, because if you're supposed to,
so it's on record.
If that fails, then you resort to litigation, right? Is that the plan?
Yes. So we wrote specifically to the Federal Capital Territory Administration.
Seeking for what?
Seeking for this specific document that have listed the memorandum of understanding signed with the private company. We're seeking for the environmental impact assessment that has been done in respect of this project. We asked the FCT Capital Territory Administration to tell us specifically if there has been any public consultation with the people regarding this project. We sought to get the approved design. And then we also were interested in the process of selection, because this is going to be a public-private project. So we wanted to see what was the process of resulted into these two companies that
we're totally out of time, Mr. Alam. So there are two parts, litigation, or you also escalate it to the president himself. Maybe you will listen.
Litigation is also a right, because
no, you have a right to sue if you want to. You have a right to sue. And it's a public property. It's not the minister that owns it.
The thing about the environment is that the environment, it has before now been seen as something that was something contained in Section 20 of the Constitution, where it used to be an aspect of our life that was not justiciable. But we do know that with the judicial progress we've made in this country now, particularly in the case of there's a Center for Oil Pollution Watch against NNPC. The Supreme Court specifically said that environmental right is closely tied with the right to life. If you don't provide the conditions that support life, then you cannot be talking about the right to life in itself.
Fantastic. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I was asking you all the questions as to who you wrote to, whether you wrote to the right office, so that you're not writing and the minister has not seen it, and then you're saying he's not responding. That's why I was asking those questions.
Yeah, thank you.
But I know he has seen the objections, he has seen the concerns raised, because I think he did a presser responding to some of the remarks being made and all of that. I must thank you, Patrick Alam, Legal Officer, Space for Change, joining us right here talking about the Jabi Lake controversy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And just before we go, Kelly, I think we have something about the fire incident. You have that one?
Yes. Well, a building collapse, so another building collapse, I should say, in the nation's capital, where sadly 5 persons died. I don't know why this is something that keeps recurring. Whether in Lagos or Abuja or Port Harcourt, it keeps reoccurring, and lives have been lost in this one, which happened, I think, about maybe 24 hours ago. You know, and it's a major concern. Mr. FCT Minister, I think there's something we have to do about regulation, because we cannot keep going over this over and over again, where the lives of people who work in the construction space or environment will keep dying as a result of building collapse. The FCT Minister has responded, or has made a presser ordering free treatment of those who were involved in that building collapse. But yet again, for me, is the fact that, I mean, what exactly is going on? Can't we just do the right thing? And even for engineers or architects and all of that, I don't know why there's always that compromise for every time we want to build. You get approval for a one-story building or a duplex, and the next thing we're seeing a 4-story building, a 5-story building, as the case may be. I mean, for crying out loud, we cannot keep going over these incidences over and over again. It doesn't put the image of our country, in a good light. And for the FCT, I mean, I'm just wondering, all of the innovations Mr. FCT Minister is doing, I mean, this again is a dent. Jeff?
Yeah, I think enough said. We'll leave it at that. Gentlemen and ladies, that's what they call it. But our thoughts and our prayers are with the families of those who've been affected by this particular death. It's an unfortunate and avoidable death, and we hope the states can do something to stop all of this happening as much as possible. It may not permanently, but as much as possible. Bombas, thank you so much for your time and company. As always, I'm Jeff Rose, and Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. Bye-bye.
From Lagos, Nigeria, I'm Kelly Egiga. Have a productive day.